You can't always do the same bullshit every time, man.
And we're live.
You can still keep talking, though.
Well, I
was enjoying.
I just love. So I don't know if you've ever gone live on YouTube, but you take a picture like right before you go live to like be the basically what you see when you go to YouTube, and the one from Beef Loaf today, it looks like like he doesn't have a fucking head. It's amazing.
A very small Beetlejuice-like head.
I'm just trying to mix it up and do something a little different. You can't always do the same poses or whatever. I was looking through some of our YouTube videos, and we do a good job of mixing it up and doing different bullshit. And I was like, what am I going to do different? There's one when the White Sox Dave won. I'm standing completely up, and I'm like caressing the R.I.P. Harambe shirt. You got to do something a little different every time.
Which I think that's more of a candid shot of you. That's what you were just doing.
That's what I was doing the whole podcast. I mean, and then you guys caught me on there.
Yeah,
for
you
sure.
were sitting there just massaging your nipples.
That's right.
So,
all right, go ahead.
We have some cookies here.
We do have cookies.
Oh, we sure as fuck do.
Oreo
What are
s'mores
they?
cookies.
Oreo s'mores.
Wow.
Quersy says we need to try these, and I felt like we should eat them.
Get down on those. I will explain what we're going to be.
Yeah, go for it.
So we just did the podcast, and we were doing our post game now, and something that we all recently watched was the of Mikes and Men documentary by the Wu-Tang Clan, and we were all Wu-Tang Clan fans of varying degrees, I would say. Throughout our younger lives, so we wanted to talk about the documentary and kind of like what we think about it and like what we took away from it, what we think might be bullshit, what we think is legit. And so while you guys start that off, I'm gonna eat this cookie.
I was gonna say we'll start because that cookie's fucking delicious.
It's good.
And as Treasy predicted, he said, because I was like, let's just get the cookies and we'll put them here and we'll eat them during the after show.
No.
And he said, we'll eat every single fucking cookie if we put it on during the after show.
We
So
would.
we can't do it. They're really goddamn good.
Good.
I would eat a handful of those.
A lot of graham cracker flavor.
There's no
And
question. The
just-
filling
just
is
enough
delicious.
filling, yeah,
Really like the
it's
filling.
pretty good.
I'm normally a double stuffed Oreo guy.
I like the double stuff.
I've matured to the double stuffed. I know you don't believe that, but I've matured up to the double stuff. And someone, who was telling us that the double stuff should be the normal, and then the normal one should be the Oreo light. Who was that? Was it Josh Nelson?
I think it was. And I think he's right.
I think he's right too. They should rename the double stuffed as the regular, and then go Oreo light.
Yeah.
So anyway, we should talk about that documentary.
Pro tip though,
Yeah.
if you're going to get generic Oreo double stuff, the best one that I have found out there is the one that they sell at Ollie.
Okay.
Ollie has generic double stuffs where the stuff in the middle is still creamy. It's like a creamy filling.
Oh, got it.
Versus a lot of the double stuffs that you get like at the Jewel or the Mariano's, it is a very rough center. So the one at Ollie is the best, and Ollie also makes generic thin mints, and they also make generic Samoas. And they're both under $2 a package, so fuck those Girl Scouts.
I can't believe they're undercutting the Girl Scouts. It's like a cartel. I mean, they're going to get fucked up soon from this. That's not going to be allowed for very long.
If I learned anything from Loaded Weapon 1, it is a cartel.
It's most definitely a cartel.
All right, so of Mikes and Men.
Mike's
My Sex Summer, kick it off, because I think you're the most passionate.
I watched
about this.
it, and it was something that I saw several times when we were watching, I think, The Chi, because The Chi is on Showtime. So I saw the preps, and I was like, I want to fucking watch this, because I'm like, they're going to get into some shit. We're going to hear some shit. And they did not disappoint. And from what I was reading up last night, because I wanted to provide a good, well-rounded opinion, that Divine has never really talked about his days with Wu-Tang, because they didn't. And Divine is RZA's brother, who was the management behind Wu-Tang, and one of the initial investors of Wu-Tang too, right? Like he put the money forward.
That's the way they made it sound in the documentary.
It seems like he was putting a lot of
Hustling
ill-gotten
money,
funds into funding them at the beginning, in exchange for basically being the founder. He put all the upfront money. So if they were to get big, he would get paid out in the back end through all these contracts.
Which he'd end up getting.
Yeah.
And then everybody hated him because he ended up getting all that money.
Well, it's interesting because what he did is he not only fronted that money, but he also learned to do all of sort of the business stuff.
Right.
He learned to hire the CPAs to make sure the guys got their tax returns done. He learned to hire the insurance firms to make sure the guys were all set up and they had life insurance and health insurance and everything. He learned to do all the bookkeeping. He learned to manage them. He learned to go out there and help them source deals and stuff. He basically had to learn how to run a business while everyone else was doing the creative work. And what comes out in the documentary is that the creative folks don't sort of get that there is that work there, and that shit costs money. You can't just like that shit just ain't free.
Right.
That just don't happen like all by itself or something like that. It was very interesting how they treated him. Also, as I told Terezi in between doing a podcast and this, I'm pretty sure that Larry David modeled his Crazy Eyes Killer character after Divine because he's got the crazy eyes and he's a light-skinned brother just like that. So I'm either he or the actor that played it, I'm sure they came up with this concept and threw this shit out there. It was so goddamn funny. Watching it, I was thinking to myself, I know that guy. I've seen that guy on HBO. I've seen him on Curb.
I've owned 2 Subway posters, and if maybe the younger generation doesn't know what Subway posters are, but like back in the day, you could get these 6 foot by like 3 foot or even bigger than that posters that you could hang in your dorm room or your college bedroom.
Yep.
First one, Jane Says album with the Perry Farrell like there, and Wu-Tang Forever was the second one that I owned. Yes, okay. and that was on the opposite side of the Perry Farrell. So a band or a group that was very much beloved by myself in college and then after college, and as Benita Stakey noted last Friday and then Sunday, Jacob raps just like those guys on that record. Why does it sound just like them?
I'm going to disagree with her.
Your white flow skills.
I had some good flow, especially with those songs.
That's right.
The 2 of the stories that stick out for me from the documentary that were like just blew my mind, and I think it was Diggs, which is another one of RZA's cousins, was selling the record, and he was trying to get it in all these record shops.
Yes.
And he was at the biggest record store in New York, and he was trying to get him to play the record, and the woman's like, no, I'm not playing the record, and then finally ended up going, okay, fine, I'll play the record, and they had a plant in the store, so when they played it, the guy goes, yo, I've been waiting for this shit, and now I'm finally hearing it, I want to buy that record. And then so Diggs is in the middle of the store with a box, like selling, and some other guy goes, "Yeah, I heard that shit on
they run that local show,
and Slim. It's not Slim, but it's like it's some they run Stretch Armstrong and Babito show.
That's right.
Because Wu-Tang or Diggs also with a bunch of rough looking dudes from Staten Island went up to them and said, play this fucking record. and Babito, who was not licensed by the FCC to play records at that point, says, okay. So he played it, and it blew up. And then this coincidentally, or obviously after that happened, they play under this thing, and they went crazy. And the woman at the record shop was like, okay, I want to buy those records because I don't want you selling those records in my store. And then he's like, we did it there. We did it in Nashville. We did it in Florida. We did it here. We did it everywhere. And I think that speaks to who the group is, because these kids were not did not come from good backgrounds.
Right.
They did not have money. They didn't know anybody in the industry. And honestly, they were very controversial when they started to get a little fame, pointing out, hey, these cops are harassing us because there's these guys following us with cameras from MTV. And they're like, what's going on? What are you guys doing? And they brought a light and all that stuff. And I think when you go back and listen to a lot of the Wu-Tang's lyrics too, and in revisiting it through this documentary, it's not, I'm killing this motherfucker, I'm jacking this, look at all this nice shit I have. They're talking about fucking problems that are actually going on, their struggle, their strife. And that's what made it more true, I think, to me than, a lot of this gangster rap stuff that the kids get into, or got into.
So what was the other story?
The Diggs.
Was it the design?
No, well, the design one is funny too. Like it was, but yeah, the Diggs, and what what the fuck? All right.
The thing with Dixo is total guerrilla marketing.
Yeah.
It's total like think outside the box, figure out a way to get that first little bit sold and get that name out there and get some people wanting to buy the thing or at least get in stores to want to take that on. So you got to like appreciate the outside the box, really creative thinking there with that.
Yeah, no, it was good. And then you're talking about the logo.
Well, so the logo was hilarious. I think for me though, the story. One of the interesting things to me about the documentary is that, you know, like you find out that like the RZA is kind of the mind behind it all.
Yeah.
Right. He's the
It's
one.
his plan.
He came up with the plan. He came up with all this, and then in the last episode, you actually hear about when he decided that he wanted to bring rap to the Middle East.
Yes.
And like kind of take over the Middle East, and he gets what is it, silver rings?
Silver rings.
Oh, God.
And so out of this spawns such an interesting idea where he takes an album and it's only going to be heard by the highest bidder. You know, the person who gets this is the only person who gets to listen to it, and puts it at auction like a piece of art. And the way they went about it, you can have your feelings about, because it's unclear from the movie, from the documentary, how upfront they were with the other members about what they were doing a session fee for.
Yeah, like roughly what you could tell is that Silver Rings, who ends up being RZA's Middle East protege, basically the guy he took under his wing so he could go tour the Middle East, a sort of known rapper, and then he brings him under the helm.
Puts together basically like a solo album.
Yep.
Where he gets a bunch of Wu-Tang guys to do session work on, and they pay them session fees, right? Rather than make them part of the album. And then they auction the album off to the highest bidder, who just happens to be like the worst human being you've come across. So like seeing that guy spend, what is it, $2.5 million?
$2 million, yeah.
$2 million on a Silver Rings solo album brought me so much fucking joy, because what he fucking charged people, because if you're not following it, it's Martin Shkreli, who's just the worst piece of shit.
He's in prison now, too.
He's in prison, but he's not in prison for doing that.
No.
He's in prison. He stole from rich people and then he went to prison.
It
wasn't because he fucking fucked over like
he brought
regular
an
human
AIDS
beings.
drug, right?
Yeah, and then he jacked the price.
That's not what he's in prison for.
No, but that's how people would know.
If you steal from some regular motherfuckers, that shit's fine. But if you steal from some rich motherfuckers, you're toast.
But what I love about it is that he jacked the price of these medications on people.
Olanzapine or
and then
something like that.
the RZA went and jacked the price of a Silver Rings solo album on him. More than he did on any of those medicines. So I good on you, RZA, for fucking over Martin Shkreli. We wish we all could have. But yeah, I found it hilarious because, like, when they talk to the Wu-Tang guys about that album, because, you know, it's an album that a bunch of them are on, they're all like, we don't consider that a Wu-Tang album.
Nope.
So we kind of can just, as a society, put that album off into, like, that's not a Wu-Tang album. I don't need to ever hear it.
Yeah.
Right.
This asshole paid $2 million for it. I kind of love that.
It's an interesting way too for the RZA to realize back some of the profits, especially as he allowed, because he always had sort of I don't want to call it an open relationship, but it's kind of an open relationship with the rest of the members of the group. They were allowed out of their contracts, not scot-free, not 100% scot-free. What was the deal? He had to be
the producer on their solo record.
So when they
could go anywhere, but as long as he was a producer, he was still getting that money.
They would. So the Wu-Tang brand would still get a piece, and RZA and Divine.
I feel like RZA got a piece. I don't think the Wu-Tang brand got a piece.
Well, the Wu-Tang brand meaning
not the ownership, not all the guys in the Wu-Tang,
just
but
the ownership of the
brand.
Wu-Tang company or whatever, which was probably RZA and Divine. Yeah. So, but because of that, it looked like he was able to claw back a little bit of that through this record, through this sort of unique idea that he had to do with Silver Rings. The thing I was most impressed with, and obviously you've all heard it, so you don't really, and maybe don't think about it, but the ability to take 8 or 9 individuals and get them to work cohesively
Oh yeah.
into some artistic product. Like I look at what most people wouldn't consider art, but what the three of us do together, it takes a lot of work to get like
It's
us to
definitely
weave,
performance art.
to weave in and out of each other, and like we know each other really well. And these guys are friends too, but you get 8 or 9 motherfuckers, and then you start getting egos, and they start making a bunch of money. And it never seemed like the art suffered at all. They had their fallouts and things, but the songs they were producing, the records they were producing, were still terrific. They still were able to sort of do that, have that interchange.
Well, I think
It
just
was
the
amazing.
mechanics of a group or a band with that many people, and to do a live performance where you're not stepping all over each other
Right.
is incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It reminds me of in the rock world of like a Pigface, where it's like all these different guys from all these different types of talents and different things that they do well, all coming together and doing something cohesively live. It just seems impossible. And to see them do it like in this, especially from the early days, and like honestly, you know, when they came out, I was probably more into rock and metal than I was into hip hop, so I wasn't really paying it that close of attention. I didn't really get into them until they actually toured with Rage,
Yeah.
and at that point, a lot of them were popular. So I always had the impression that like these were solo artists who came together to do like the super group, when in fact it was the opposite, and it was just this large group of rappers that did this first and then sprung out into all these different solo groups or solo acts. And like that is insane to me, that like that all these guys were like in the same group from the same area, like knew each other, and then spawned out into like so many different things. And the only guy in the whole thing that I feel bad for at all, like, because I mean, like, I know there's guys that are like, hey, my solo album didn't happen, or it happened too late, blah blah blah, these different things. ODB is the only guy that, like, I feel bad for.
I think
like,
everyone feels sorry for
like,
him.
And especially because like the shit that he went to jail for was so ridiculous.
Oh my goodness.
So I was like, that's part of it, where it's like I would hope that today he wouldn't go to jail for something like that.
Right,
And maybe that story ends different. And I'm not saying, trust me, I'm not saying like ODB is the best guy, you know. And in the documentary, they really like kind of go like, they kind of glaze over. Like they're like, oh, and his heart started failing while we were in the studio. Like he died of a cocaine overdose. It's not like it's not like he just had heart troubles.
He gained a lot of weight too when he was in prison.
Right, and well, then you do a lot of cocaine after you gain a lot of weight. That's that's what happens.
It's gonna be pretty bad.
Yeah. So I'm not saying I feel sorry for him for that stuff. I'm just saying like just the way that he was generally probably one of the more talented dudes in that, and one of the more distinctive talents.
Yeah, definitely the most unique. Yeah,
Right.
That to have it end like that for him, and for him to have like a falling out with RZA, who was his cousin, like is sad. Like that's the sad part of the documentary to me. I was more sad about that than the guys being like, oh, that Silver Rings album, that wasn't us. Fuck that guy. I don't really feel sad for anyone in that situation.
They still got paid. They still got paid for their stuff.
Speaking of which, so like the one thing with the Silver Rings thing, to get back to that, they don't mention it in the documentary, but I remember hearing that the way the contract was worded, that was for the buyer only, unless the Wu-Tang could pull off a heist to steal it back. So I want to find out if that's actually legit, and I want to find out also, are they planning this while this guy's in prison? Like, they would be so awesome if they ended up with the album back.
You know what's funny is we're probably going to see it on Storage Wars. Like it's probably in some guy's storage locker. They're like, oh, this has got to be worth some money because it's covered in diamonds and there's a Wu-Tang symbol on it. And you're like, what is this CD?
The guys in Storage Wars really know all about the Wu-Tang. They know the Wu-Tang
They're
symbol
like,
up and
I'm
down.
going to take it to my expert, who's my 15-year-old son that knows how to use Google. No, so the second story was the Stretch Armstrong and Bobbito thing where they just showed up with the
Oh,
thing.
okay.
But another part that I liked too was like when there was like some there was like a local video place that would run videos.
Yeah.
And RZA shows up with the video. And the guy's like, yo, there's timestamps on this. And he's like, I don't give a fuck, just play it. So, and if you go on and you look up Protect Your Neck on YouTube, it's the same.
It's got the
There's timestamps like throughout the video. And it's like,
funny.
it does look so raw though. But it looks like gangster. They're like, oh shit, are these guys getting watched? Is there something going on?
Dude, I love that guy's place. He just had fucking videotapes everywhere.
Oh, it was
still.
amazing when he went in the basement.
Yes.
He's like he had them all labeled by
It's
era
like,
and
oh
shit.
man,
It's
please
amazing.
transfer those to digital. I
Yeah.
was like,
Don't let all that die or like a flood come in.
yeah,
there and fuck that up.
I was like sick to my stomach. Like, oh, just one bad night of rain, and this all this shit's ruined. Like, I don't want to think about that.
They had that, shit, I just had it in my head. Now I lost it. But they had, there was another part that I liked. Oh, the Divine, when they were talking about Divine and how he invested his money.
He did.
Like he would take 800,000 of the 4 million, and then he would buy properties. And they made a comment that if the rest of the Wu-Tang would have done the Divine plan, they would own 10 blocks of Staten Island and just be millionaires, like buku millionaires, and not having to play fucking shows now, and go around. I'm sure meth is fine. I'm sure there's
I'm sure
most of them are
part
okay.
fine, yeah.
But I know Ghostface Killer has had some issues because he was on that celebrity, marriage counselor bullshit thing. Because he was with some girlfriend or something. And it was like, oh fuck, Ghostface is on a fucking reality show, But man, those guys still got flow. I watched a video last night from 2018 at Soundset in Minneapolis, and most of them were there, and they fucking killed it. Capadonna, how do you guys feel about the Capadonna?
Well, he wasn't there at the very beginning, right? He was
Right.
in prison.
And Divine said something like they shipped him $250K check the second he got out. Like they lined him up immediately. So I wonder if some of what it is he was just a good friend of theirs that they're like, all right, we're gonna bring you in because you've been one of the boys for all this time and kind of hook you up, fix you up here with this,
Which I'm fine.
That's okay with that. I'm fine with that. Yeah, you wanna share a little bit? That's good.
Just don't go MC Hammer and spend all your money taking care of all your friends.
What interesting too is that we look at it from the music standpoint, but RZA's done a bunch of film. Method Man was in The Wire, a key player in the fucking Wire.
Yeah.
So these guys have gone on to do other things, other than music. So the Enterprise just got.
I was hoping you were going to say Method Man and How High. I thought that's where that was.
Well, didn't he have a show with Redman too, a short-lived
they
TV show with Redman? So
and
It was a comic.
I think
Was
it was a comedy show. Yeah, I never saw it, but
No, I think it was illustrated.
they weren't
It was
actually.
like a cartoon.
maybe.
I thought they had a cartoon.
That might be right.
I don't know. I didn't follow the Method Man Red Man.
I was not a big
Enterprises.
fan of the Meth and Red mix up.
Doing because they did that was How High, right? That was both of them.
That, and then they had records together and music together, and I was
Just not into
never
it.
really felt I was like, nah, this is not Wu-Tang. It's kind of like how I feel about Foo Fighters. It's not Nirvana.
Just made some enemies, I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm with
absolutely.
you.
Come meet me in the 108. Ooh.
Come at me, bro.
Yeah,
That's your
come beat up a
bro.
drunk uncle, a White Sox player. Woo! Wearing a headband. Fuck you. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think at this point,
It's good. Check it out.
I think
Showtime.
we're gonna
It's good times.
we're gonna eat the rest of these cookies. So we'll see you guys soon.
All right. Peace. Oh boy. What are you doing back there?